basically the study of what it means for Christians to extend the reality of the kingdom of God. And but missiology as a discipline, so as Christians think about what it means to defend the faith, to evangelize, to share the gospel, to extend the kingdom, I found and discovered that many people had in the discipline of missiology had actually, or the Missio Dei, the mission of God, had actually lost sight of the biblical prescription, of the biblical manifesto. And they were trying to baptize Karl Marx and various other thinkers through social justice movements and so on as a Christian response. So they had taken isolated verses of the Bible about justice and mercy and the need for their recovery, but then filled them with their own meaning. And so I wanted to enter with this book the discussion of the missiologists, and to sort of, as a Trojan horse, as it were, kind of, that was the initial idea, was be a Trojan horse and sneak in with this book, The Mission of God, into that debate around what is the calling of the Christian in the world. And so that's how I kind of both came up with the title and also reflected on the idea of a manifesto, because, of course, it's not my manifesto. It's God's manifesto. My attempt, that's why I've called it The Mission of God. What I'm attempting to do fallibly and within the context of my own limitations is to articulate what is God's vision for the world. What is it that God is calling his people to do? And in a nutshell, my prescription is all of Christ for all of life, that what we need to do is recover a full-orbed gospel, or the gospel of the kingdom, and a scriptural world and life view for every area of life, if we are going to face the challenge of a collapsing culture all around us that has abandoned the faith and is re-paganizing, is de-Christianizing at an incredible rate. And so I look to the Reformational tradition, and I look to the much of the work of those who followed in Dr. Rushdoony's footsteps. Of course, he was writing very prophetically back in the 1970s, especially. You know, even 20 years ago, I was being called a hysteric. Well, he was writing 50 years ago and talking about many of these things. Well, the proof of the pudding is in the eating, and here we are. We are where we are. And so if there was never been, in my view, a greater need for an outlining of this full-orbed gospel of the kingdom that rests in a total scriptural world and life view to respond to the crisis of our time. In UK politics, I'm familiar with Canadian politics, of course, having lived there for 19 years as well, and I've traveled a lot and extensively in the US. But in British politics, when a political party is campaigning, it publishes a manifesto of what it intends to do. What are its policies going to be? What's the direction of its the thrust of its thinking? How is it going to apply its policies? And so I thought, as a subtitle for the book, this is about the application of the Christian world and life view as well. It's not just a consideration in the abstract, but what is the concrete requirement of God's law word in every area of life?